Hashem's v'saytivtach u'vi'agito asacha. We're now in the 8th Perek of Megillat Esther. In this Perek, we have that the enemy, the greatest challenge to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to all of our growth was hung on a tree. Meaning, he looked to be that eighth, he looked to be his own sustenance, and ultimately it is that was twisted and turned against him. But now the Jews are still in a precarious situation. And why is that? Because they still have a decree against them. So Bayom Hahu, on this day, Natan HaMelech Achashverosh, it's definitely not Hashem, but rather Achashverosh, LaEsther HaMalka, he gives over the Beis Haman. Tzorer HaYehudim, or Mordechai Ba, Lifnei HaMelech, Ki Higita Esther Mahula. And so we're starting to see this reversal. We're starting to see everything flipping. First of all of the money that Haman accrued over his lifetime, which was a significant amount, was given over to Esther, who ultimately gave over the guardianship of it to Mordechai. And by Yasser HaMelech Tabato, and he takes. Now, here is where things start to get very exciting. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes his ring, Asher Hevir Haman, that he gave to Haman, because Haman was his representative, so to speak, the one who was going to mete out a punishment for us. And so something is happening, and Hashem is now switching it permanently. B'yitznala Mordechai, and he gives it to Mordechai, Batasem Esther as Mordechai al Beis Haman. And so the ring is now given to Mordechai. And Esther puts Mordechai in charge of Haman's estate, so it's seemingly everything is flipping to the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted it, and it's just a matter of time where you see the Yad of Hashem really, literally, v'nahafochu. You see the nakama, as we had mentioned. You see that good is prevailing, and everything that was in the negative is turning into the positive. Batosef Esther l'tidaber lifnei hamelach. And so what does she do, Esther? She's speaking before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Things are turning. What do you do during the time when things are good? Do you only daven to Hashem when the times are bad? Things are turning. Now, she's feeling personally, there's a personal freedom, and there's a personal sense of menucha, that nothing's going to happen to her, because she is given the keys to the kingdom, literally. And but what happens? Batipol ifnei raglav. She cries out and falls in front. Batef vatechanin lo lahavir es ra'as Haman hagagi es machshvaso asher chashav Yehudim. And so she's davening, because that's what a Jew does. Davens very hard, cries out, begs Hashem to take away the ra'as, remember, the bad, the ra'ah of Haman. His ideology, the idea of he is a agagi, it's remembering his lineage, that mercilessness and all the narcissism, it's all about the me. It's all about what I want and how I can impact. It's all about the me, and how if you are not in my purview and you don't do things good for me, I want to eliminate you. I don't want to be helpful to you. And that is genetically predetermined for Haman, because he was from Agag. He's from Amalek. By Yoshit Hamelach LeEsther et Sharbit HaZahav. Keeps going. Hashem is undoing everything. And Batakam Esther Batama Lifnei Hamelach. And so once again, the king extends the gold scepter to Esther, and Esther stands in front of Hashem, or according to the concrete, in front of Melech Achashverosh. And what does she say? If the Melech is Tov, remember, if you're going to do HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what we know to be true, which is that good always prevails, and that if our intentions are good and our everything is dedicated to you, Hashem, there's nothing better. If everything is good, if I pass muster, if I am doing what the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yichativ la'ashiv es asfarim machshavas Haman ben Hamdasa Hagagi. So what do I want you to do? Please reverse everything. If I did tshuva, if our people did tshuva, then you can reverse it. And no longer is Haman, all of his ideas and his ideologies going to be present, but rather do something, because he wrote that we should be killed, and that this is coming from the edict which was written to exterminate my people, the Jews. Ki echacha uchal v'ra'isi b'ra'a asher yimtza sami ve'echacha uchal v'ra'iti ba'avdan moladati. She states, remember we had learned before that when it was presented to her, Esther, do something. But if you don't want to do something, then get out of the way, because either you're going to be helpful or someone else is going to take your spot. What is she saying? She's saying, no, any evil that I see to my people, I can't bear witness to that. I can't just stand idly by and do nothing. I can't just be happy that my personal happiness has increased because I'm not in any physical danger. It's my people. And where, that I can't bear witness to them falling apart, and them, this is the epitome of what chesed is. I care about the other. I'm looking for the other. I want to make sure that everyone around me has what they need. Vayomer HaMelech Achashverosh LaEsther HaMalka, and to Mordechai Yehudi, to both of them. She has gone up in his estimation to the level of a consistent Malka. And Mordechai, that's anti-Semitism for you. He's always going to be the Jew. And so I gave you the Beis Haman. I hung him on the tree, and now, we have to come up with Plan B. So what should you do? You're the beacon of light in this world. Do what you find to be tov, because I'm seeing that he's seeing the light. Now, remember, we've thought of Achashverosh as being a very ineffective leader, but he's buck up. He also is reversing. He's now coming up with a definitive way. He has a good idea. He's carrying it out. He's not asking for, his advisors to give him opinion. He's taking care of it himself. And so he's also seeing, because he saw what is tov. He really sees the difference between the Haman Hara and this tov, this duo here that are really finding value to all of the things in this world. And so he gives them his ring, and he says, write another edict. That edict will counter this edict, and you'll seal it, and be'im lahashiv, it won't be revoked. Vayikru sofrei hamelch, and that's exactly what they do. And when do they do it? B'chodesh hashlishi hu chodesh sivan b'shlosha asar bo. Okay, shlosha be'esrim bo. And what do? They write down that this is a new edict, and they're going to pass it through to 127 provinces, everyone in their own language. This is exactly the same language as we used the last time around. Remember, everyone got the edict about, everyone in their language, that Haman was going to destroy the Jews. And here, it's literally the same language, but now we have Nakama. We have a reversal. We have that good is overcoming evil, and that everything is being undone. So it's written by Achashverosh, but it is sealed by Hashem. And that's what goes, and it goes all throughout the kingdom. And what was it? That the king has given the opportunity to everyone, anyone who is lahashmid, laharog, labed. Where did we hear that from? Exactly in Perek Gimel, the same exact wordage. But here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Achashverosh are empowering the Jews to do whatever they want to anyone that tries to attack them. You have permission to be an armed force. The only time in history where Jews are able to defend themselves, kol hakavod, that's what you're allowed to do. Anyone who attacks, ataf v'nashim u'shalom lavos, you can't be attacked by your possessions or your children, your women, and that's what's going to happen. And when is that going to happen? On which day is all of the undoneness happening? On the exact same day that Haman used, on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is Adar. It's not possible to not smile and say, wow, oh my goodness, all of these difficult, terrible events led to the Jews doing tshuva, to Mordechai and Esther reaching their highest potential, to developing a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that allows for there to be Tov, that Tov reigns supreme, and everything just flips to the other side. And what is it? Layom hazeh lihinakim ma'avehem. Nakama, the idea of that reversal are going to the enemies. Anything that was l'shem shamayim is staying good and pure, and everything else is just flipped on its head. And only HaKadosh Baruch Hu weaved that to be so. And so Mordechai yatsa mifnei hamelach b'levush malchus tchilat bachor b'ateret zahab gedola, and now he is the one. Remember in the beginning of the Sefer, remember in the beginning of the Megillah, with all of the beautiful clothing that were worn erroneously by people who didn't understand the Kedusha. So now what's happening? Mordechai is dressed in Melech's clothing. And it's, because it just shows that where the clothing represented and highlighted the negative in the past, now he's an Erlich HaMensch, dressed like a Melech, and he is, some say like it's a very interesting, because some of these substances are, together are shatnez, but there's a lot of different talk on that. But ultimately, the Ha'ir Shushan Sahala V'Samecha, just like the Jews were so upset in the beginning of the Sefer, now they are so incredibly happy. And then the famous pasuk, Laihudim Haisa Ora B'Simcha B'Sason Bikar. What does it mean? That the Jews had light and happiness, a different kind of happiness and honor. Now, a beautiful idea, Rabbi Rosner mentions that each one of these words represents a different mitzvah that Haman tried to take away, because he knew the power and of the defensive quality of these mitzvos, and now we got them back. So there's Ora, which is the Torah. There's Simcha, which is Yantif. There's Sason, which is Bris Milah, and there's Bikar Tefillin. These things highlight the strength that we have and the relationship that we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which has been our defense for all this time. If Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad, like what's written in the Tefillin, or the Torah, obviously. And so the beauty of this is that we have our mitzvos back. Another time that there were anti-Semitic ways in which Haman prevented Klal Yisrael from growing, and now our mitzvos are back. But it's also in contradistinction with what the Jews of Shushan did initially. They were happy and glad to be in the party of Achashverosh. They were, making use and using the kalim, or watching how the kalim of the Beis HaMikdash were used in a materialistic, pleasure-bound, not holy way. And now what's happening? Everything that's bringing light to the world is the mitzvos. The mitzvos, and that materialistic goods are used in a good way, that the pleasure principle, the bris milah represents the antithesis of what was happening in the beginning of the Sefer. And what happened? B'chol medina b'chol ir be'ir magia simcha v'sason lihudim. It's widespread. It's everywhere. Mishteh v'yom tov ramim ha'amei ha'aretz mithat dim ki nafal pachad hayudim alehem. We are now the Or Lagayim. We have hit the bonanza. We have reached a pinnacle that is that, that we are a light to a nation, and people are actually fearful, and they say that there was a massive wave of conversion that was happening because everyone wants to be a Jew, which gives you a little bit of an inkling as to what it could be during the time of Mashiach, right? This is really, we're coming to a very high level of simcha and sason, and things are good. Now, why is it, just, in concrete terms, why are they being so happy? Nothing good has happened yet. So we changed the edict with another edict, but, we're on the verge of a war. So the answer is really, again, v'nhafocho, how things are flipping. The value of showing yourself to be very important. And that, again, so that the enemies could be fearful, and when you look the part and you act like the part, then people believe that you are the part. And so what's happening here is that because the Jews, this is a tactical strategy. The Jews need to instill fear in their enemies, and so they're partying as though they have already won, but they're doing so. On the one hand, it might seem like, okay, well, that's, it's too good to be true and too early to be thinking that it's good. On the other hand, they know, they've seen the light, they understand what the value is of what they're doing. And so there's no hiding that. Once the light is out, and they're and Jews are able to really see and recognize the right way, then it no longer does it even matter. It doesn't matter that the war hasn't been won. They have bitachon and emunah, and they're living their ideal life. So everything has come full circle, and that really is the v'nahafocho. And so, in contrast to all of the difficulties that happened in the third Perek, almost the exact wordage in the flip is happening in this Perek. And so we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Yad of Hashem, is making sure that we get our version of tzaddik v'tovlo. We get our version of, if you do right and you're trying hard, then ultimately it always ends good. It's always the tov. Whether you feel it as the tov, that's part and parcel of the way history unfolds, according to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it's not about that you have to do very deep, well, no, it's really Latova. Here, the sason and the simcha that are happening is that you can actually feel that whether or not, it's objectively speaking, people are happy and they're being besimcha. And why is that? Because Tov has won over Ra so far, but more importantly, they've undone all of the negative things that they started with, which gives them real Tov, because that's the relationship that they have with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They've come on back, and that feels so good that the simcha is just radiating even before anything good has yet to come.